Hello and welcome to this time, not an anime video, but a lore video about Warhammer 40k and Angron, the Primarch of the Warhounds, or rather World Eaters, and arguably one of the, if not the most tragic of the Primarchs that ever existed. Granted, there are some unaccounted ones, but since we don't know their story, let's just stick to the information we have. But before we're going to take a closer look at Angrons Fate, let's take a closer look at my Patreons and thank them for supporting this channel, as well as all users of the YouTube thanks function who made one-time donations. And with that said, we will take a closer look at Angrons Fate. He was, like all the other Primarchs, shotgunned into the wider universe via warp magic, and his gestation pod has hit the world of New Syria, a world with a decadent nobility and a lower class living in depressing, never-ending poverty. So, in order to distract the population, sports events were a big thing on New Syria, which is also partially how Rome worked. Bread and games was a way to appease the masses, and if the bread rations are particularly scarce, chewy, and not bread at all, the games have to be that more spectacular and bloody, much more so than soccer, football or basketball. Hence why the entire planet was covered in gladiatorial arenas, where enslaved gladiators were made to fight one another to the very death. And Angron was one of them. As a young kid he was found and thrown into the pit, like the rest of the slaves. All gladiators, or rather those that had a shot at becoming one, had to then climb a pyramid, while the arena was flooded with acid. And Angron, while ultimately victorious and the sole survivor of countless dozens, was horrified by all of this, not to the degree that, let's say, Gilliman would be, about the barbarism, the decadence, and the senseless slaughter, and presumably about the poor logistics as well. But Angron deeply empathized with all of the other gladiators. He felt their pain, their fear, their anxiety, and he did not want to kill or harm anyone, and he only did so to survive. This is likely the case because Angron, like all the other Primarchs, inherited an aspect of the God Emperor's personality. And I personally believe that this aspect, or rather one of them, was the empathy the God Emperor felt. While his own actions are oftentimes cruel, self-righteous, and have quite the high blood toll, he still cared about humanity. He still wanted, on a fundamental level, to save his people. And this was what initially and originally defined Angron, who on any other planet would have likely become an emphatic, charismatic leader, a savior of his people, someone who, once in power, would not just spout empty phrases about ending poverty, violence and suffering. He, on a basic level, on a deep, deep core of his personality, would feel and empathize with his subjects, and would only want to do what is best for them. He, at the very least, would have become an enlightened, benevolent, and emphatic dictator, but on New Syria, where he never experienced any empathy, any civil code, and any other things that would normally form a basic civil society. It was all different. And while he only wanted to save people, he, after already surviving a horrible, acidic baptism, was forced to kill them. The only thing he had as a peer group, his gladiators. And the closest thing he had to a father figure, someone who could give this young kid, that he still was back then, some guidance, was the gladiator Önamaus, and both became very close, and both fought and survived numerous times in the arena. But even in this hellish environment, where empathy, aid, and civil society were just completely unknown, where members of one community In this case, the gladiator slaves had to fight one another on a constant basis. The Primarch was still empathic, and he still had the ability to mend the pain and suffering of others. Even in this condition, even after all the abuse the slave masters had made him suffer through, he was still himself. But everything changed when he was outfitted with the butcher's nails after refusing to fight his father to the death. After both had become very popular gladiators. The butcher's nails are a form of archaeotech from the dark age of technology, and they were not only hammered into his skull, but they flat out replaced vast parts of his brain, namely those parts needed to survive, and regulated. Even worse, they now would make sure that the only pleasure Angron would ever feel thereafter is from violence and the sensation of murderous slaughter, while every other activity, be it singing, dancing, eating, sleeping, and even breathing and thinking, would be punished with a relentless, immense, intense, stinging pain. And think about what this does to the brain parts that remained. Every single neuron would be subjected to the conditioning of this archaeotech. It would grow accustomed to it. It would rewire itself and build new connections to other brain cells, all according to the signals it received from the nails. Over time, Angron's brain was rewired on a cellular level, while being chemically drowned and starved of dopamine, all depending on whether he just had slaughtered someone or not, all depending on whether he is battling or not, all depending on whether or not he has taken a life. And once Angron fought again, he was even better, stronger, and far more ferocious than even a normal Primarch. Such a spectacle had never been seen before. But for Angron, it was hell, because after the battle, he fell into a deep, deep depression. Not even the nails could initially awaken him from for days, since he realized that in an act of mindless bloodlust and violence, he had slaughtered his own father. After that, the nails would slowly conditioning him to be ever more violent and punish him immensely for every act of kindness. But even this would take time, and before the nails could fully control, corrupt, twist, and warp, and then ultimately kill him, since they were not meant for the brain of a Primarch, Angron organized a revolt that became a full-grown rebellion, and his gladiators were known as the Eaters of Cities, for they brought down many of the nobility that had so long controlled and tortured them. But ultimately, they lacked weapon, armor, support, industrial might, logistics, and perhaps also tactic and strategy. For Angron was not only suffering from the nails, but aside from being thrown into the gladiator pits at a very young age, he never had a chance to educate himself on proper tactics, strategy, or even just the outside world. All he knew was the fight man against man and man against beast. So he and his fellow men prepared for the last stance, because ultimately they knew that they would lose. Angron, already heavily warped by the nails, clung to his last vestiges of his former self and wanted to end his life together with the gladiators, fighting for the last time as brothers for freedom and not as gladiators against one another for entertainment. And then the Emperor rescued him and teleported him away, leaving his gladiators the only frame of reference of family and kinship he ever had known, to be slaughtered. And even worse, Angron could still, even after years and years of the butcher's nails bite, feel overwhelming empathy for all of his fellow men. And he knew that they will think that he had betrayed and abandoned them. Hence why he saw the Emperor of Mankind not as his savior, but as his new master. He resented him, his legions, his plans, and ultimately became the very antithesis of the Primarch of Empathy, a demon prince of Khorne. This fate of Angron is emblematic for the grimdark Warhammer 40k universe. And now it's your turn. What do you think about this video? Do you want some more Warhammer 40k and perhaps fantasy? Please let me know down in the comment section. And with that said, I say thank you very much for watching and special thanks to Arder Daddy Arder, Bad Guy Ye, Bad Boyto 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley0221, Seer, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazor, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Q&A Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rag Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Zinukai, and Zonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.